الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we send salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In our Fiqh of Ramadan of fasting this evening, we look at a very important aspect, the hay'ah, the description of the act of fasting. And if you recall, a few weeks ago, I mentioned a very important hadith of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the person who seeks for their sins to be forgiven, they must fast the month of Ramadan, يتحفظ على حدوده, that you adhere to the boundaries of fasting. You understand the limits of fasting. And that is what we are looking at this evening, inshallah. To describe, well, what is it to fast? I think it's a good question even when a non-Muslim colleague at work asks you, so what do you do? How do you fast? And how should a Muslim fast? Firstly, the intention for fasting must be made before you fast. And particularly in the Shafi'i madhab, the intention, it is recommended, across the madhahib they recommend it, but there's emphasis placed in the Shafi'i madhab, that the niyyah for fasting is recited before you sleep. Why? Because the niyyah for fasting is a prerequisite for validity of fasting in Ramadan. As mentioned previously, when you have a sunnah fast, a nafil fast, you can wake up for Fajr, maybe you never drank anything or ate anything, and maybe after Fajr you decide, you know what, I can fast today, a sunnah fast. You are permitted to make that niyyah up until dhuhr, zawal dhuhr. That's for sunnah fasting. But for the fasting of Ramadan, the niyyah must be made before you start, particularly in the Shafi'i madhab. And so the custom usually is that the recitation of the niyyah occurs the night before. Some masajid, historically they would have the niyyah recited in the masjid to ensure that your niyyah is made before you sleep, in case you oversleep. Because sometimes we oversleep, maybe we were very busy in ibadah, tahajjud, whatever it might be, and now we close our eyes and we wake up in the adhan. And we rush. Or sometimes there's maybe a minute to the adhan. It happens to many of us. We are hysterical to get that last bit of water down our throats. And we perhaps forget to make the niyyah. Because I'm rushing against, seconds to drink. And therefore the niyyah should be recited, the night before. And so when we look at the nature of the niyyat that are often, popular in South Africa, nawaitu sawma ghadin, that I intend to fast tomorrow. That's the niyyah we are making. So just a point, inshallah, in Ramadan, ensure you recite your niyyah before you sleep. That should be like the last thing. If you didn't do it in the masjid, before you sleep, recite the niyyah, inshallah. You can check also with your kids, with a spouse, did you make your niyyah? Khalas, okay, you can sleep peacefully. And you don't have to, if you get up the next morning, you don't have to make the niyyah because you've already intended now for that day. So you stay away from eating, and this is the basic rule, no eating, no drinking, and no sexual intercourse from Fajr until Maghrib. In addition to this, you refrain from swearing and backbiting and gossiping, all the harms of the tongue, and physically harming someone else. And this we learn from the hadith, that if someone approaches you and they want to, work you up, they say something to you, they insult you, or they tempt you, our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you must respond, inni sa'im ahsantum, yes. You must respond to the person, I am fasting. Be aware of the fact that I'm fasting, I'm restraining myself. Some people say, I'm going to get you after the puasa. That's not the way either. Restrain yourself, inshallah. Then we engage. So this is all part of fasting in Ramadan. No harms of the tongue. Your tongue must be pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even in the marriages, Big test for all of us who are married. Watch what we say. Because the first person we say something to is often the spouse. Because we are now hangry, hungry and angry. So something slips. So watch the tongue, inshallah. Reminder to myself as well. And we engage in Quran recitation when we fast. Lots of Quran, lots of dhikr, lots of dua. And the fifth layer to your fasting, and this is the layer of taqwa that we learn from the teachings of Ramadan. The layer of taqwa, of consciousness of Allah, is when you stop those things which are permissible but keep you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes in Ramadan, especially maybe the young, they might say, Sheikh, where's the hadith that I can't watch Netflix? Or where's the hadith I can't do this activity or that activity? The objective of Ramadan is closeness to Allah. So the believer who really wants to succeed will cut out those things which they know are time consuming. It doesn't make those things haram. Big question from youngsters. So is soccer haram in Ramadan? Or is Xbox haram? No, the ruling is not of tahreem, that it is impermissible, haram. It's what takes your attention away. So if we say, okay, the youngster says, I want to play maybe just a 20-minute, just a 15-minute game of soccer, just so, Qubayl al-Maghrib, just before Maghrib, So I'm not too thirsty and then I can, their rationale. So the question will then be, okay, can you also give Allah maybe for that 50 minutes of soccer, can you give Allah maybe 20 minutes Quran? Can you? And no one's going to watch. It's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't do things which would tire you out because the night is Taraweeh. Now after 8 raka'at, oh, my legs are sore. That soccer game messed me up. No, how did you benefit from Taraweeh? It's only once a year. So we refrain from recreational acts. What invalidates your fasting? These rules are very important because you apply it to everything. A fluid or solid substance reaching the stomach, which happens via eating and drinking. A fluid or solid substance reaching the inside of the body by means of the nose or the ear or the eye or the ear or the rectum or private parts. So entry via these natural openings, as we refer to it in fiqh, by a solid or fluid substance would invalidate the fasting. The inhalation of smoke or gas that would lead to particles entering your body. The ejaculation of semen due to sexual arousal. And of course, intentional vomiting. And just as a side note, I will touch on this in the future. Injections are generally permitted provided there is a medical reason to take them and it's not for nourishment purposes. Okay. What are some of these sunnah acts of fasting? Let us see what we can practice upon, inshallah. Sunnah. To have your suhoor meal in the last portion of the night. So not too early, to really delay your suhoor until just before Fajr. So have your suhoor. That's why normally when we have some tahajjud, you have your suhoor after tahajjud. Okay? And then you begin your day of fasting. Then to hasten to have iftar. And this is a point that I want to share with my beloved IFM as well, mashallah, and everyone. Sometimes at the time of iftar, people want to make lengthy du'as, right? So when the waqt enters, adhan is made or the waqt enters, you must have iftar immediately. If you're busy with the dua, cut it off in the 5 seconds or so, and then please break your fast, but don't delay the breaking of your fast. Have your iftar as soon as possible. And then you break your fast with dates. Another important sunnah action, which is fading away. I hear many children saying, oh, I don't like the taste of the date, whatever it might be. But the parents, inshallah, even if it's just a portion of the date, but encourage the sunnah. That the child, and adults as well, must break their fast with a date. And then make dua at the time of fasting. It's probably of the most mustajab du'as that you can make in Ramadan. I love Ramadan, knowing how mustajab that dua is at iftar. It is amazing. That dua, in the words of our Prophet ﷺ, that, Allah does not even want, Allah is shy to reject the dua that is made. Allah is shy to reject the dua of the fasting person made at the time of breaking fast. So just before you break your fast, don't rush. If you are not in the masjid, don't rush. If you're at home, if you're on the road, don't rush. Take a moment, make dua, put your dates, your water, samosas, whatever, you halim, all these things, soup, have that ready, and then make the dua. 3-4 minutes, solid dua, because that dua is mustajab. Whatever you need from, and want from Allah, in the dua of at the time of iftar. And I'll close with this section. What is disliked when you are fasting? Let's look at these acts very quickly. To exaggerate when you gargle, and when you're inhaling water in the nostrils when you take wudu. To exaggerate, don't be excessive, right? To kiss, of course, now we're talking to about the wife, right? And the wife kissing the husband. Of course, it's haram for the everyone else. To kiss, because it can arouse sexual desire. So preferably, don't kiss, okay? But when you are not fasting, mashallah, tafaddal. Then to look at the spouse lustfully. Don't look at the spouse with desire, because that is also makruh. These are disliked. Don't think about intimate relations or imagine it. Don't touch a woman with the hand with sexual desire or rub against her body. So you have a desire and you physically touch. Chewing gum is makruh. To taste food unnecessarily. Now, a good point in this fiqh mas'ala, who can taste the food? The wife, okay? Well, generally, let me not say the wife also, Haji, the one responsible for cooking and preparing it for others. So generally it's the women, but in some households, mashallah, the men are superb chefs, you know? Now there's many households where the men, I've been to some homes where the man comes out, no, Sheikh, I'm the cook here, you know? Khalas, no problem. The person responsible for preparing food for others. If it's for yourself, the ulama have written you shouldn't really bother. But when you are cooking for others, you are permitted to taste and not swallow to the extent to determine that this is suitable. Like, did I put in salt? Let me just taste, okay, you can clean it off your tongue as well. There is salt. To rinse the mouth in, outside of wudu, cupping, bloodletting, opening a vein, foul speech is makruh, engaging in what is normally permissible, that will be makruh, because it takes up your time, using the siwak, the miswak, after zawal, and intentionally delaying the breaking of your fast. These are all makruh actions. On the point of using the miswak, there's a very common question that comes up each year. Can I use a toothbrush and toothpaste? So I know that there are ulama that have said this is fine. I respect that view. However, I feel, and of course they use it qiyasan, they say because the miswak is permitted, they say the modern day miswak is the toothbrush. I've read that fatwa, and you can use the toothpaste. My personal view, which many scholars agree upon, is that the issue isn't the toothbrush, but it's the toothpaste. That there's a taste, there's a mint. And if that is swallowed, it is a fluid or solid or semi-solid substance that has gone in, and then of course invalidates the fast. So my general recommendation is rather stay away, because there's too much doubt in that aspect, or go back to the original sunnah, and then if you want to use miswak up until zawal, that's fine. But preferably don't substitute it with others. And I do respect the ulama that hold the other opinion. I just feel that that is a more conservative and better approach, inshallah. Any questions? Jazakallah khairan wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Muhammad rabbil alamin.